Hello folks, this is a making of video about the Fellowship parody I made for my 9-year streaming anniversary. The editing software that I use is very old, so chances are it's not the most time efficient way to edit, but hopefully it's fun to watch regardless. It took around 120 hours in total to find and record footage and edit the video. I started by watching the movie, obviously. I'm not actually a very knowledgeable Lord of the Rings fan, I've not even read the books, but I do enjoy the movies. I made notes that would probably make a lot of fans laugh on my phone while watching, of what I considered noteworthy scenes in the movie, scenes that I could probably pull off with basic costumes and a green screen. I don't have a floor green screen, and the vertical one I have is not very large, so for most scenes that I wanted to record, the characters would have to be standing up with the camera in front of them. I live in the southwest of England in the countryside, so recording Shire-like stuff on location was fairly easy. I drove around the countryside one afternoon and looked for locations I could potentially record without passers-by thinking I was some kind of strange solo LARPer. I then created a spreadsheet with all of the scenes I wanted to record, around 40 in total. It listed the scenes in order, which characters I wanted in them, whether it would be filmed on location or on green screen. It also listed whether the scene required me to be clean shaven or with a beard, as obviously the hobbits had no beards, several characters had fake beards, and a couple of them had a beard like mine. Lastly, it listed whether art or photographs would be required. All of the background images and videos I used for the green screen sections were royalty free from websites such as Pexels. It's a really good site, it doesn't use AI or steal from photographers without permission, and it's free. I didn't want to use any images or sounds from the actual movie, so I searched for things like fields, caves and forests and found lots of suitable images and videos to use behind the green screen footage. It didn't have to match the movie exactly, just give a general idea of the setting. For the sound effects and music, I used a website called Epidemic Sound, which charges a small subscription fee to use audio for content per month. Finding sound effects like swords clanging and monsters screaming etc. was easy, though matching all of that to the footage on the timeline was not. Each scene was like a puzzle, figuring out how to record each character and what position they'd be in, especially with multiple characters on screen at once interacting. I didn't record the scenes in order. I actually started with the Rust horse riding scene, which involved very little green screen footage. I spent £100 on all of the costumes, wigs and prop weapons from Temu. Since this video wasn't designed to make money, I didn't want to spend any more than that on it. I also figured it would be funnier if the costumes and props were obviously low quality. For each scene, I had to learn the lines for each character and record the footage in front of the camera, and then record a voiceover to match it because I didn't want to use a mic on the costumes. It was quite tricky getting it all to match roughly with the mouth movements of each character. For the earlier scenes, I mostly had one character on screen at a time, but as I gained little confidence, I started having multiple characters and tried to make their recordings match up. One of the toughest puzzles to solve was simulating camera movement. As this was a solo project, the camera always had to be stationary. While most of the scenes did have a stationary camera, it was possible for some of the green screen ones to have a panning camera by using a treadmill while recording, and then panning the background image so that it looked like it matched. For the scene with all 4 hobbits walking to Bree, I recorded them on the treadmill and then green screened them onto the background, which was animated in such a way that it looked like they were walking towards the camera. Another scene that had this technique was the long panning shot of the Fellowship running along the bridge, which in the movies was an epic aerial shot. I recorded each of the characters jogging on the treadmill, and then animated them one at a time panning along the screen along with the scene background. The scene background moved slightly slower because of perspective. Only one green screen shot in the entire video features a character's legs, because I don't have a floor green screen. There are only a few shots in the video that feature the ground, and for those I used a large green piece of cloth. This was not easy to get consistent lighting on for green screening, so I didn't use it for more than a handful of scenes, mostly for when a character falls backwards. Every other scene pretty much had to have the character's legs off screen, which was tricky for things like Samwise getting thrown by Gandalf and Frodo in the octopus fight scene. I tried to use cropping in specific camera angles so that it wasn't super obvious that the legs weren't visible, though I wish I had a floor green screen for those scenes. I hope that it ultimately added to the scuffiness and humour of the video though. There were a couple of shots in the video that took vastly more work but were quite a fun challenge to accomplish. These were the shots with multiple characters on screen at the same time that weren't using a green screen. For the scene with all 4 hobbits walking down the road, I had to record footage of each of them walking down a separate section of the road without them overlapping their paths, and then crop them and layer them together so that they looked synchronized. This was really difficult, especially filming on a road. It also involved changing costume quickly several times because I didn't want to risk moving the camera tripod by mistake by stopping and starting recording. I also had to adjust the brightness of some of them slightly because of the sun and shadows changing as time passed. I think that it came out looking really good though. The scene with all 9 members of the Fellowship was much harder though. I found a lovely field to record in private, although a couple of hikers did walk by. I brought pretty much all of the costumes for every character to change into, and roughly marked a path along the field based on the camera's field of view. There were 9 characters, so at walking speed each one would only be in shot for a few seconds before overlapping with the next character's path. I recorded each character doing the same walk and changed costume 8 times. The field was on a slope and it was very tiring. The clips were cropped and layered like the other scene, and I adjusted the brightness to make them all match too. It was really a lot of work for a 6-second clip, but I was really proud of it. Obviously I did not have any kind of CGI skills for this video, so I had to make do with basic prop work and video effects. Gandalf's beard billowing, for example, was easily accomplished by this handy desk fan. Galadriel's ghostly appearance was just a handful of video effects applied, mostly inverting the colours. The ducks that were meant to symbolise the Black Riders were done by green screening, or rather treadmill screening some plastic ducks and trying to match the camera perspective with the stock river footage behind it. It didn't look amazing, but hopefully it was funny regardless. The Sauron orange is one of my proudest ideas for the entire video, and to be honest I had no idea how to do Sauron's eye with visual effects, so I thought, what if I simply set fire to an orange? However, this proved difficult because oranges famously consist mostly of water, so I covered the orange in isopropyl alcohol, stuck it in a pan, and presto, Eye of Sauron. The Uruk-hai was quite an experience to put myself through for only a few seconds of footage. I apologise for the extreme nudity that you see here. I recorded it late at night, outside in the cold at my mother's house as she has a larger garden. I covered myself in very sticky green slime and cling film. I promise it wasn't a fetish, just trying to replicate an orc being birthed. I also had to drive home before showering, which was quite tricky. The blocks of ice in Gimli were just polystyrene packing material thrown by myself, and the snow was a simple green screen video. The octopus fight was the first really complicated combat scene I tried to make, and it was rather tricky. I recorded the octopus movements first, and tried to figure out how to do shots of each of the characters running to help Frodo. The cave entrance scene after Frodo gets grabbed needed lots of layers to make it work, as you can see here. I had to cut parts of the background and foreground in half so that the octopus could emerge from the lake, and so that the characters in the foreground were always in front. Animating Frodo so that he was always in the mouth of the octopus was just tedious keyframing, and the rest of it was just standard character combat animations. Given that this scene is largely CGI in the movie, I decided to only use 3 characters to rescue Frodo to keep it relatively simple. For this Gandalf scene, I discovered that making a card tower is a lot harder than it looks. I tried to make one unsuccessfully until eventually giving up and using double-sided tape to cheat. In my defense, this was a brand new pack of cards, and supposedly it's harder using new stiff cards than used more flexible ones. That's the story I'm going with anyway. Pippin sneezing onto the cards and blowing them over was simply movie magic once again using the desk fan. The Legolas headshot is one of the coolest shots in the original movie. It was tricky to make because I had to match the zoom on a very high resolution background image with the zoom on the character getting shot. For some reason I recorded like 7 takes of this, all of which looked daft. For the arrow, I just recorded the prop arrow wiggling slightly in front of the green screen. The Balrog scene was one of the hardest to make simply because I don't have a Balrog. The idea to use my dog Kaido as a Balrog is what I'm proud of, though recording anything involving animals is notoriously tricky. The Balrog is obviously much larger than Gandalf, it's on fire, and even using stock footage it was tricky to find anything resembling an underground cavern with a bridge. I shot a lot of footage of Kaido in the various poses I thought might work for the scene, and found a place that might work for a dark cave in my mother's garden. I cut a cardboard fire shape that she could wear on her back and painted it green, and put a stock fire effect on that so it looked like it was burning. I then used treats to record her running towards the camera. It looked quite silly but worked great for a janky Balrog. I also recorded some footage of her rolling on the ground for the falling Balrog shot. All of this footage was green screen, and I added a few video effects to each of the scenes like colour temperature to make her look orange and glowy. This worked great for the most part, and I also added the effect to the front of Gandalf for the close-up shots to make it look like the fire was bright. These rocks that fall down were photoshopped by a good friend as I'm useless at picture editing, so thankfully all I had to do was animate them. I think that the scene worked really well overall and Kaido made for a wonderful Balrog. Probably the trickiest thing to edit in the video was all of the combat interactions. Obviously, using the green screen I couldn't actually have a sword fight with myself, so I pretty much just had to record lots and lots of sword swipes, thrusts and reactions from various different angles for each character. This involved a ridiculous amount of costume changing, as you can imagine, and I generally recorded a character's parts in multiple scenes at once to minimise this. However, this did make the recordings quite long, and having to sort through all the footage was a lot of work. My green screen isn't very large, so it was tricky to keep long weapons in the shot as well as myself. This was a lot easier for shots without a visible opponent like the Black Riders attacking the hobbits, as the combat could just be done using a series of camera changes. However, for anything that involved multiple characters, I just had to record them from the side and then try to find bits of footage that roughly matched with the recordings of their opponent. I figured that this would actually be easier than trying to choreograph and memorise an entire fight scene and perfectly synchronise both recordings. The result did look fairly janky, as they don't always sync up brilliantly, but I think that it adds to the amateur charm of the video. The cave troll fight scene was the most complicated, as the cave troll was larger than the opponents and I wanted it to have some fun interactions with the other characters. One shot that I wanted to try was Legolas jumping on the troll's head like he does on the movie, but it was really hard to get both recordings to match up, as you can see, but hopefully it looked alright. I wanted to have the troll fight Aragorn in melee combat, so I recorded him from behind and then had him duck a melee swipe. Lastly, I recorded a very close-up shot of the troll's ugly blue painted face so that Frodo could hide from it behind the pillar. The fight scene with Boromir later on was mostly the same kind of stuff, except finding a way to keep an arrow sticking out from my shirt was annoyingly difficult and involved lots of tape. Adding sound effects to the combat scenes was actually quite tedious. Finding them was easy from the website I mentioned earlier, but there are just so many of them and it was important to have variation so every sword clang etc. was not identical. I downloaded lots of monster growls, arrow hits, sword hits etc. and tried to line them up on the video timeline so that they roughly matched the choreography. For most of the combat, each hit was an individual audio file, but for the cave troll scene I used a sound effect of general background battle noises as there was a lot of off-screen combat. Each individual sound effect usually also needed the volume adjusting. I'd guess that modern software, or even the software that I use, can normalise audio volume automatically though. The Black Rider scene was the first one I made for the video and one of the most complicated as it required actors. I decided to use our community Rust server at the time to record the scene as it has horseback riding, which is apparently very expensive to do in real life. I found various outfits in the game that matched the various characters and picked a river crossing that we could use as a location. The water magic that Arwen uses in the movie would instead be represented by an attack helicopter, partly because there's no reasonable way of me doing water CGI, and partly because it's funny. I found 8 volunteers, 4 Black Riders, Arwen, Frodo, a gunner, and the finest helicopter pilot my money could buy.
Oh no!
We rehearsed a handful of times to figure out the route and record various angles, and only really encountered a handful of hiccups.
Oh my god!
How?
We're gonna have any horses left at the end of this?
We still have some spare.
They were brilliant, consummate professionals throughout. What are you guys doing?
Drop me my sword.
This is what amateur theatre is like.
I took the sword and threw it in the air, okay?
Item. After a few tiny setbacks, I figured that I had enough footage for the first half of the scene. Can all the 4 riders just line up and look at the white horse real quick? And just... okay. Well, we tried.
I'm already moving.
It's hard, okay?
We then practiced the confrontation, which went absolutely flawlessly.
The horses have way too much HP for this.
Yeah.
They are not
Really?
even close to dying.
Discovering that the horses had enough health to tank several seconds of minigun fire, the volunteers carefully attacked their own horses with their swords until they were on low HP. This was a plan with no drawbacks as all of the actors were professionals.
Oh! What the?
Oh no!
After finding the horse's understudy, we recorded the shot perfectly and I decided I had enough footage from all of the takes combined to edit the video. In my mind palace, this whole thing took 15 minutes and everyone was meek and obedient and nothing went wrong. I forgot it was you.
Alistair, you're dealing with actors.
The actors did a wonderful job and it was good fun directing the scene. Editing this scene was reasonably easy except for the scenes that had live action recordings over the game footage. Arwen riding was one of my favourite shots in the scene despite only being a couple of seconds long. I animated the recording of her riding the stool onto the horse riding from the game. I was pleased with how the horseback riding shots turned out, and really the only other tricky shots to edit were the horseback close-up shots because of the layers involved. The footage of the helicopter gun perspective was recorded by the gunner, as I was recording it from a bird's eye view. The scene looked goofy, but was hopefully funny and very recognisable from Lord of the Rings.
I feel like there's gonna be a whole section of us just fucking this up.
I work with the footage I have, okay? I can't.
Oh yeah, outtakes would be amazing.
The missing bloopers scene of the 4 Nazguls breaking their horses' ankles. Can somebody kill that bear, please?
Okay.
Where's the bear?
We're all gonna die to a bear in a minute.
No, it's fine. Just be faster than the bear.
Somebody deal with the bear, please.
I mean, we have 5 people.
You
with
have swords,
weapons.
just hit it.
Melee.
My goodness.
Yes.
No!
Guys,
Okay.
there's a big pile of horse shit on the... Can you pick up the horse shit, please? Come on, this is extremely... Let's not have a bunch of horse poo lying in front of the shark. Come on. Do not take me for some cheap purveyor. Do not take me for some conjurer of cheap tricks.
Can Poppy do like a victory punch in the air when we get to the other side?
No, Poppy is dying. She's just been poisoned by the Black Riders. Come on.
I took it and threw it in the air and now it's gone.
There are some more swords. Please don't lose them.
Oh, there's a boar kind of behind you too, Simsy and Poppy.
Oh no. Are we gonna
Shall
need
we
some protection?
It's Gollum.
Shall we save you from the boar?
The ring calls to him.
Alright, where do you want us?
I need you in the helicopter, ideally.
Alice needs to add to the tagline, "No animals were harmed" during the making of this film.
That would be a lie. I need the helicopter people who are running around taking photographs 800 kilometers away from the helicopter. Someone is not in the helicopter right now.
No, I'm moving the helicopter forward to figure out where the hell Shrimp is.
Shrimp is trying to get into the helicopter running behind it. You both have mics. How is this happening?
Oh my god, did you put my horse into again?
This isn't health and safety.
Okay, can you guys hide again,
Oh,
please?
show violations.
There's a tree
But
right
I'll-
in front of me.
Well, you'll have to
Yeah,
find
that
a way
tree,
around
just
it.
go left or
I
right.
can't believe this.
You'll have to somehow get around that tree. Now, I know that you've not had any
Don't just
formal
run
training.
in, I tried
Right
that.
in the correct
If you hit that tree, I'm going to
It's-
kill myself. I'm going to avoid the dome in the background.
I mean, you could probably use chromatic to get rid of it.
Use what?
So you could highlight that area and then just chromatically erase it.
But there'd be nothing behind it.
We could
The
use
rest,
that
the sky or something.
and
You guys are
select
vastly overestimating my
a
video editing.
mountain.